All right, we can start. Just because we have Tyson coming on in 25 minutes. The space crash, the strategy I use to open spaces is close that out, close the Twitter app out, reopen it on the account that is going to host the space, and then open the space. And that has been a 100% success rate for the last several months until now. So sorry about that, everyone. I'm getting people funneled into this new broadcast. Wendy, welcome. Michael, welcome. We got BitBoy coming on. We got Davinci coming on. But before we get, or rather, before they come, we're gonna get started just because we're again a little bit late past the hour. I wanted to talk about some high-level topics today. One, the future of CeFi, of sexes, of centralization in the industry versus the future of decentralization in the industry. And if you've been living under a rock, then you probably don't know what's going on. But otherwise, there's been a lot of regulatory scrutiny by the SEC towards crypto. I feel like a lot of this is just covering their asses for letting FTX slip through the cracks. So they're coming after everyone. And I know Wendy has some strong opinions about this. I saw her going off on her show over in YouTube. But they're pretty much pursuing this regulatory by enforcement point of departure, and the basically just pushing innovation out of the country. It's going to go elsewhere. It's going to go to Dubai. It's going to go to Hong Kong. It's going to go to Singapore. I'm going to pass the mic to you. Sorry to put you on the spot, Wendy, but I know you've been put on the spot plenty of times in your career. But what are your thoughts on this current regulatory climate in the U.S.? How do you think it's going to affect the industry here in North America? And then also, do you think that decentralization is going to see an evolution as a result of people moving away from CeFi?
Gosh golly, thank you so much for having me. That is a lot to answer. I'm still waking up. Just got back from traveling. Also, too, hey, Michael, it's been a minute since we last talked. I've known Michael for a million years in the space, and Noah is absolutely awesome. So I just got back from traveling. Please ask me the first question one more time. I'm multitasking with this.
Yeah, sorry. And the reason I threw all those at you is because I know you're fast thinker just like me. But first question is, what are your thoughts on the current U.S. approach towards crypto, towards Binance, Coinbase, this regulation by enforcement point of departure. How do you think this is going to play out?
So I was reading a thread from one of the attorneys in crypto, and my favorite content creators in our industry are U.S. attorneys. And the reason why I feel like they're, alongside the people that have been here that were early mining Bitcoin, that have been creating really great stuff since the very beginning. I feel like the attorneys are people that you should follow and pay attention to because they have a really great understanding of what's happening behind the scenes regulatory wise. There's this big misconception in crypto and Bitcoin where people can simply, they feel like, oh, we don't need any government oversight. We don't need to pay attention to the rules or any of those types of things. And even though I really get behind that ideology, and because I'm very much punk rock and I'm very much, I can, be responsible for my own decisions. I don't need anyone to protect me or take care of me. The truth of the matter is we do have to work with regulators. We do have to work with these public servants because they hold so much power and they're just not going to let us do what we want to do. So with that being said, there's a term that I heard and compromise is key. Compromise is definitely key. You're not going to get anywhere in life if you do not compromise. Mommy's talking. Okay. I'll get you in 1 second. Thank you. But one of the things that I heard them say was anti-guidance. And that's basically not giving any type of guidance, any way, shape, or form, and then going after people after the fact, which is a concept that's very bizarre to me. The way that I was brought up is that I wouldn't get in trouble for doing something unless my mom laid a rule out. And I also use that type of parenting with my daughter. And I don't think that Americans or any type of human person deserves that type of treatment. I think it's absolutely absurd that people are getting in trouble after the fact. And it's been proven that the SEC and these other public servants, they don't have real understanding of what digital assets are, or crypto assets are, or what blockchain is, or how these systems work. And that's because a lot of these people in office they're from a different age demographic, and that's okay. There's no shame in that in any way, shape, or form. But we have people that are making rules and laws and, weighing in on this stuff that have no idea how this works. And to me, it makes like I wouldn't go to a doctor. I wouldn't go to a heart doctor for a lung problem. It makes no sense. And that's what we're seeing happen in America. And that's problematic because America was built on non-corporate capitalism. It was built on entrepreneurship. It was built on people coming over here for a better quality of life, to have more liberties and to have more freedoms. Again, America is not really as free as we think it is, but it's better in some aspects than some of these other countries. But when we are talking about crypto and crypto assets and what's been happening with these regulatory actions against like Binance and Coinbase and all of that, I understand that there may have been some things done. Please don't write on that. I need that for my schedule today. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. But I understand that there might have been some things that have happened in the past where they could have done something where they didn't know that it was, they didn't have enough guidance with it. And I understand that. But at the same time, you shouldn't be able to go after somebody for trying to do the right thing with zero guidance or insight. And that's where the problem starts. And again, I'm reading a lot of some of these attorneys that are like, well, that doesn't matter. You should have known. That's not a good defense. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a legal expert, but I just don't understand how that's not, I don't want to use the term fair because I'm not a crybaby, but I do want to use the term. I don't understand how that's ethical. It doesn't make any type of sense to me. I mean, you can love and hate Binance all you want, but once there started to be some regulatory issues or they started getting questioned, I want to say before summer of 2020, they started leaving. They were ramping up their efforts and they're telling people, you know what, we're going to be leaving operations in the US. And so they opened up a separate entity, Binance US. And they offered a lot less products, a lot less services to kind of comply with the existing structure that we had in America. And I think that that's okay. And the fact that we're seeing we're seeing people like Gary Gensler and the SEC unjustly going after these companies for things they did in the past is problematic to me. And we see a lot of different special treatment happening. Like, again, with Binance, I'm not saying they're solvent. I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying they've done everything correct. What I am saying, though, is that when they have complied to the best of their ability, and I have, like, throughout the bull market, because I do a lot of content on TikTok, and I did a lot of, coverage as what was going on. But through the entire bull market, Binance kept getting hit after hit after hit, negative headlines in the US all the time. No one else in crypto, NFTs, or Bitcoin got that same type of negative tension. And immediately when I see that and I see a little bit of difference in energy or behavior towards a person or entity, I question and I start to follow the money and think about, why is this happening this way? Because that didn't make sense. And then when it comes to Coinbase has a lot of different partnerships with I believe they had a partnership with ICE for the KYC AML. They help the United States government liquidate their holdings when they confiscate it from individuals. They were approved to go public. And getting approved to go public is not something easy to do in the US. You have to have a lot of money. You have to have, some sort of connections and attorneys and whatnot. And the fact that these companies are able to operate that way, and then all of a sudden we just see this massive crackdown in the light of, China having their digital yuan and other countries being immensely bullish on blockchain and digital assets and regulation. It's just showing me that the US and this particular party that's in power right now is really trying to stifle innovation in the US and is really trying to get things under control, probably because they're scared, because crypto and Bitcoin does directly undermine their ideology, which that's not what America was started from. So for me, it just becomes a little bit problematic to see, no, you can't have candy right now. It comes a little bit problematic for me to see this type of behavior happen to entrepreneurs. And Mark Cuban put out a really, really great tweet the other day. And in it, he said something like 99% of these companies are going to go to zero. 90% of them will fail, like just giving off basic statistics of entrepreneurism. And that's not unique to crypto or digital assets. This is unique to a lot of entrepreneurism in the United States. Like most people that start businesses, they have these really great ideas. They get super excited, but their businesses fail. There's a really great book called The E-Myth. I forget who wrote it, but he talks about all of the different aspects of being an entrepreneur. You have to wear different hats. And most humans are not designed to be that way. They're not designed to be the technician or the money manager or legal or all of that stuff. And that's why you see these big corporations or other large companies hire different people that have expertise in that particular thing. For me, for example, my YouTube channel is growing very well. So I've been able to hire people to do different things. It's not because I can't do them, but they're better at it than I am. So that's my take on what we're seeing in the US. I think it's dangerous. And did you want me to answer about the BlackRock ETF or the whatever product that they're launching?
Well, first of all, Wendy, thank you so much for that stream of thought and getting the space going. I know that perked me up. I couldn't agree more with you on the way the U.S. is approaching everything and kind of the sentiments that you shared. I really, really quickly wanted to pass it over to Danny. Danny and Alice spent a lot of time and put a lot of hard work into organizing this space. They are our co-hosts, Foxify. Danny, do you want to really quick give our audience, for those that weren't in here for the AMA, a quick overview of what Foxify is, how it relates to the topic in discussion, and anything else you feel is important to highlight. And they are the ones that are bringing in heavyweight champion Tyson Fury that's coming on in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the introduction, Noah. And I suppose, it's maybe good to share a little bit of our story. We entered the Web3 space and we launched our first venture within this industry a week before Terra Luna last year. So we've spent, really all of last year seeing sort of the pain of centralization. Most of the large failures that have happened within the industry don't come from decentralization. They're typically coming from centralization, and you see that. And we're huge believers in people. We see a huge opportunity, a huge power in bringing people together. But then you see this existential risk, which comes quite often when you have to trust somebody else with your money. And so Foxify is a decentralized trading platform in a nutshell. It's different to most decentralized trading platforms, both in terms of its user experience, and also in terms of what it offers. So it offers perpetuals, which is very common within decentralized trading, but it also offers a unique peer-to-peer options model, which allows anybody actually to sell an option. But you're not actually trading an asset. You don't have to trust the platform with your money, and it's completely peer-to-peer as well, and a very fluid environment. So that was kind of our answer of spending almost all of our time in this industry in very difficult conditions and seeing the failures that were happening around us. And so that's Foxify in a nutshell. And as a platform, we're just in private beta at the moment, and our beta will be sort of rolling on for the next few weeks. So yeah, fantastic to be here. Thanks for the introduction, Noah, and super passionate around how decentralization can help take this technology into a space where it's not only sustainable but also as scalable as it possibly can be.
Thank you for the intro, Danny. I actually wanted to, before we go back to Wendy, I wanted to pass it to Michael. Michael, what are your thoughts on the U.S.'s current approach to, everything that's happening, and how do you foresee decentralization evolving as a result? I want to pass that second question to Wendy as well after you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and good to hear you again, Danny. It's been a pleasure to meet you in Istanbul, and also good to see you again, Wendy. It's been a while since we have been in some chats, so happy to be here, and thanks for the host as well. I think when we get towards the regulation in the US, today we've had some news regarding my country, which is the Netherlands, that Binance is leaving the Netherlands as it's just too hard to get the license going in our country. Through which, at the end of the day, you will have a few parties that are Dutch based that will get the license, and the Dutch bank will have control over it, through which they protect the investors, they say, and other parties don't have the ability to trade there. What you then will be getting is probably a bigger focus on decentralization as people are fed up. Why is someone like the Dutch bank or the Fed or the SEC in this case, deciding for us where we are able to trade? Why is a bank saying for us whether or not we are able to transfer funds towards another account? Or why do we need to file some papers to be able to get large sums of money from one account to the other or towards the other part of the world? So I think CZ brought it up earlier too. He says at the end of the day, everything will be focused towards DEXs and decentralization. So what we see in the US right now is similar to my country. I think that Will Clemente tweeted this as well, is that they attack any crypto native companies that are not applying with the rules or the compliance of the regulatory framework of the US. They attack them. I think we can have an attack on stablecoins too, because they can't control the USDC, USDT at this point, unless USDC is going to be the CBDC that they want. And in the meantime, what we see with BlackRock, and probably more people, more institutional investors will start to show up, they build a framework through which they have control over the actual asset. They have control over the money that they make. And that's what we saw yesterday. So for retail clients, it will be, again, making it hard for you to trade. At some point, people are just fed up, and then you will see that DEXs are going to explode. I think in an upcoming bull cycle, to actually have a crypto ecosystem that works, DeFi will be the big key ingredient for such a case. So I think that especially the market cap or the market share that DeFi has or DEXs have will start to grow exponentially through retail investing.
Wendy, want to throw that one over to you?
No, I definitely agree with what Michael said. DEXs are going to be absolutely crucial to for liberty. And when I use the term liberty, it's just talking about, it's really just referring to what we can and can't do, because no aspect of life is free. It's really, really not, when you really break it down and think about it. And shout out to Sunny Johnson for teaching that to me. She's amazing. She's got a really great show. I forget what channel it is, but she's awesome. Talks a lot about American politics. But DEXs are going to be very important, because I do believe that there are certain people that may need a little bit of help, and might not know what they're doing and might need these fake protections that they're talking about. But DEXs are going to be important for other people that do want to actually have control of their money. And I do believe that having control of one's assets or money is a human right. No one should be told what they can and can't do with their money, and DEXs will be important. They'll be pivotal to that. However, the issue that we're seeing is, like in the US, they want to figure out how to ban decentralized exchanges and DeFi. And we're seeing this with MetaMask. We're seeing this with a lot of these third parties. They're coming in and they're collecting data, and a simple VPN just won't work. VPNs are great because they do add a layer of privacy. And regardless if you're whatever it is you're doing or whatever industry you're in, everybody should be using a VPN. Like, they track every single thing we do, and it's not okay. But when Sam Bankman, you can put lip gloss on. Okay, go on. You look beautiful. Yeah, mommy's talking though. Thank you. Yeah, blush too. That was my daughter. I'm sorry. So I remember there's potential, like, I can't come up with the correct word right now, but when Sam was before FTX blew up and all that drama happened, Sam had put out this like faux regulation, like these types of guidelines. And I think he was working with Schumer and like all these people about it. And what it wanted to do, everybody was like super excited about it because they all loved Sam at that time. But everybody, like if you actually read it, it was going to destroy the industry. They really wanted to take away all power from DEXs or from entities in the crypto asset industry in the US and kind of move all of that power over to him and centralize it. But of course, he ended up being an absolutely terrible person, which this is an unpopular opinion. I don't think it was all his fault. I think there was a lot of people behind him that were forcing him to do things and pull the strings, but he still, executed those ideas. I still think he's a terrible person, but there's always people behind, especially when you have that much power and money. If you follow the money and the political donations, you'll be able to figure that out. But what that potential framework wanted to do was really just destroy this entire industry. And we're seeing that same group of people, even though Sam's no longer the face for that, seeing those same group of people still want to push that in the US, where they destroy decentralized exchanges and they have complete power. And this also goes into what's going on with BlackRock. Like a lot of people don't understand how much BlackRock owns of the US. Like BlackRock literally owns, not only like they're buying up real estate, not only are they managing like $9 trillion plus in assets globally, but these guys, like if you look at all American products, it's BlackRock and Vanguard. There's a gentleman on TikTok. I'm going to pull him up really quick, and I'm trying to get him to come over to Twitter, because that's okay, baby. I'm trying to get him to come over to Twitter because this guy, he does like excellent research. His handle is called Cancel This Clothing Co. And his whole entire channel, he goes down different grocery store aisles and he analyzes a different product section. Like let's say, for example, women's hair care or women's feminine products or baby food or whatever it is. He goes in and he sees who owns these companies. These companies say that they're like small businesses or that's family owned or it's, minority owned or whatever it is. It's actually not. BlackRock has a substantial share. BlackRock and Vanguard have a substantial share in all of these items in America. And that's concerning and that's scary. And the fact that we're seeing these large institutions want to come in, people are celebrating, they're super excited about it. Great. That's going to help my bags long term. I own Bitcoin. So it's going to help me long term. I'm going to be able to make a lot of money. Great, fantastic. But to me, there's more than that to life. Like I can become as rich as I want all day long, but it's not going to change the fact we're letting third-party oppressors and ivory towers come in here and destroy everything that Satoshi created. Satoshi wanted, in my personal opinion, I believe that Bitcoin was created for the people, by the people, and it forces people to not only learn about the history of money, but also become self-sovereign, also take personal responsibility for their actions. You can't operate in a true decentralized economy without doing that. But we're coming in and we're allowing these big banks and these people with a lot of money and a lot of influence to come into our industry. And that's fine because, again, that's part of a true decentralized economy. But at the same time, why are we rooting for these people to come in that have obviously destroyed the American economy? They've just absolutely destroyed everything that most people came to America for. We're allowing these people to come in and we're celebrating them, legalizing Bitcoin and whatever ideology they want to push. So to me, that becomes very dangerous because you have people with a lot of money that are heavily invested or that are semi-controlling something with a finite supply and can pretty much do whatever it is they want to do. And once they really are able to accumulate a large amount of supply of this, like, I don't know what's going to happen to the market. Like some people might argue, oh, it's not going to matter X, Y, and Z, but we don't know that. And I do know for a fact that these banks and these financial companies, they have been buying Bitcoin and crypto assets behind the scenes for years. They would just do it under different entities. I used to hang out at an OTC desk all the time and we'd get a lot of interesting people coming in there. So, I mean, I don't like the BlackRock involvement. I don't like the big entity involvement. I understand that we're not going to be able to get access to crypto assets without some sort of compromise with these people. But I don't think that the BlackRock thing is good in any way, shape, or form. And there should be another route. There should be another route to where we can, collectively meet with these regulators or these lawmakers and demand, we want X, Y, and Z and come up with a compromise. I think that's possible to do in America. However, our society has been bred to just be super lazy and sit behind screens and just yell at each other all day instead of actually going out and standing up and making a difference. And that's why I work alongside the DCTA, which is the Digital Currency Traders Alliance. And we're just trying to advocate for fair treatment of retail. And that's another thing that you guys need to pay attention to. A lot of these people on Twitter that have their organizations or they're saying they're lobbying for us. They are not lobbying for retail. They're not lobbying for the underdogs. They're not lobbying for poor people. They don't care about you any way, shape, or form. They care about their ivory tower friends. They care about other institutional and accredited investors. Accredited investors in America, you make less than $250,000 per year and own less than $1 million in assets. And they want to raise that up to $10 million. That's very, very concerning. Very, very concerning, because it's further it's further opening the wealth gap. And a lot of people don't understand America's focus is so much on all these social issues. Yes, some of them exist, but if people have access to more money, they have access to better products and services. So before you sit here and you cheer about something, oh my God, this is so good, you need to take a step back. You need to look at conflicting opinions of hers, and you need to follow the money and pay attention to what's actually happening. Take a step back, calm down, and then come up with something that makes sense for yourself.
Thank you, Wendy. So two-part question. I feel like the saving grace for a lot of centralized exchanges specifically is high volume trading and fiat to crypto on and off ramps. So with respect to the former, I'm going to throw this one to Michael. Do you see decentralized platforms or DEXs, for example, evolving and improving to a point where you can do the same volume of trades that you can on a centralized platform?
Ultimately, yeah, I think it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and additionally, there's a network effect. So I think the decentralized exchanges have been around since Ether Delta and the good old Cryptopia days. That didn't really work out. But we've got some new cases with Uniswap and SushiSwap, etc. So at the end of the day, if sexes right now are working because they provide a user experience and interface that really works. And that's also attracting a lot of, let's say, volume from retail investors and market makers. But at some point, if decentralized exchanges get many developers involved because they want to set something up, and the user experience and interface becomes just as easy as a centralized exchange, you will see people switching over towards DEXs and they take over market share. So at the end of the day, if, for instance, trading on a decentralized exchange was exactly the same in terms of interface as a centralized exchange, I think we wouldn't be having this discussion at all. So it's just a matter of time. You should realize that centralized exchanges are around for decades in terms of stock trading. In terms of crypto, they are around for 10 years already. And in terms of decentralized exchanges, we're just here with a few years. So they are behind a few cycles. So I think that if the user interface and user experience is going to be improved, you will see a larger gap or larger market share going towards them. And I think in the past few months, especially with the banks falling apart and all the regulatory issues that all those exchanges have, you saw that the DEXs are already improving in terms of volume. And volume attracts investors and traders. So if that starts to continue rolling, and if that starts to continue improving in terms of that user experience and interface, you'll probably see a big inflow of volume going there and people just starting to trade through their own wallet that is also more realistic in terms of self-custody. Because if you're going to have a centralized exchange where you have to fill in all types of answers to questions to apply to all the compliance that they have. So you have to prove where your money comes from, or you have to prove all the trades that you're doing. People don't want that. People want to have the money into their own wallet. They want to decide what they want to do with it. Hence why DEXs are going to explode. Additionally, because then you just have the money in your own wallet and you can decide for yourself what you want to do with it, where you want to store it, and where you want to send it to.
What about fiat to crypto on and off ramps? Do you guys, and this is for Michael and Wendy, do you guys know of any fiat to crypto on and off ramps that are decentralized, or do you see the centralized sector kind of keeping that market?
I think that's the crucial and critical part. That's where the government starts to step in, because that is also the path where you can have a lot of money laundering come into play. When it stays into the crypto ecosystem, it's all fine. It's all a digital currency. But once you want to adapt towards your bank account, that's when you need to have KYC be in place. So I think that's where you see the issues with Binance in the Netherlands as well. And that's going to be a big hassle. But ultimately, there are already solutions for it. So you've got the cards that you can use if you want to pay for stuff. You can already buy your property with Bitcoin or USDT or whatever. Ultimately, I think that having those solutions in terms of those cards are already providing a short-term solution. But I think if you have an on and off ramp for crypto and USD, that is where the regulatory framework is going to be very complicated, at least in the EU. And that's when regulatory framework is required, actually.
Danny, I see your hand went up. I'm going to pass it over to you and then ask Wendy that same question.
Yeah, thank you. I thought it was fascinating what Michael said about user experience. Mainly because actually, look, if anyone doesn't know, the biggest difference between a centralized trading platform and a CeFi platform or a CEX and a decentralized trading platform is that on the former, you have to trust somebody else with your money, right? As soon as you put money onto that platform, almost every centralized exchange, as soon as you hand that cash over, you don't have custody of that money anymore. And obviously, if terrible things happen, then there's a very high likelihood that you're just going to end up with zero. Now trading is very hard, right? It requires a lot of practice, a lot of education, a lot of learning, a lot of time that needs to be invested in it. And the last thing a trader then needs is the existential risk that whilst they're asleep, despite they might be the best trader that's ever walked the earth, they might wake up in the morning and they've gone completely bust. So the number one concern of any trader is the solvency of the platform or the broker they're using. Now, when you present that, you would think, okay, well, are there decentralized trading platforms? Yes, there are. And does that mean that I don't have to give custody of my funds? Yes, there is. And so does that mean that there's much more volume in the decentralized environment than there is in the central? And the answer is, by a long way, no, it isn't actually. So the volume in derivatives and perpetuals within crypto alone, within CeFi, is 50 times what you see in decentralized trading, despite the fact that a decentralized trading platform solves the number one concern of any trader. So it's a real paradox that you see within the industry. And I think that certainly the way we see it, and I completely agree with Michael, the silver bullet really there is the user experience. It's the interface. When you switch from CeFi to DeFi, I think when you've done it for years like we have, you just become desensitized to the complexity that we deal with every day. But when you try and do it for the first time, you're trying to bridge, you've got gas, you've got seed phrases, it's very complex, and so people just go the other way. And when you've got user interfaces that aren't intuitive as well and easy to use, and that's why so many more people are not making that transition, despite the fact that a decentralized trading platform solves their number one concern. So I thought it was a really good point, because I think the number one problem is already solved today, but we're just not seeing the flows of volume. And I think user experience is going to be the silver bullet.
Yeah, we certainly need better UIs, and we certainly need lower barrier to entry. Wendy, what are your thoughts? One with respect to DeFi evolving to the point where it's indistinguishable from CeFi from a user experience, and then two, do you foresee any sort of fiat to crypto gateway on and off ramp that is fully decentralized, so that we don't even need to rely on any centralized entity going forward?
So getting something that's really decentralized without like KYC AML is going to be super hard, especially moving forward. I will say, like, I remember when DeFi summer kicked off in 2020, I was just like, I was on vacation, like on a little family vacation getaway. And I just remember like how insane and how built out everything was. I was like, oh my God, I don't even know how to use this. I had played around on some of like the random dexes, like, 2018, early 2019, but they just evolved so much. Like now there's some dexes that you can place limit orders. They have perps. They have different types of, products. There's farming, there's all different types of things that you can do. It's super cool. However, as far as the fiat on and off ramp go, you're never going to be able to have decentralization with it. And the reason why is like most of the payment processors are, they're owned by the big banks. They're owned by these ivory tower folks. So you're not going to be able to get in and out that way. I mean, you can go to like your store and buy, I guess, a Visa gift card and load money on it and then use it that way. I want to say Bitrefill was a really great way to do this, to kind of stay anon, but I don't think you'll ever be able to get around not having to, include, like, be tracked that way. So that's going to be really complicated. I know they have these Bitcoin ATMs. The fees are absolutely insane for those. So I think that's going to be a challenge to use DeFi with the fiat on and off ramp. Like, I guess what you're going to have to do is you would have to use some centralized exchange, buy a particular asset there, and then use like one of the coin mixers to move it off. And even then, those are getting shut down. So it's going to be a challenge to see how any types of workarounds for that. But right now, I don't know if we'll be able to see those, or if somebody's going to create a solution for that, just because we're seeing people get gaffled up for absolutely no reason. The developer Tornado Cash is, that happened, and he got picked up, and Silk Road got picked up as well, but we still have these horrible people that are still running loose. So I do hope that we're able to do it in the future. I just don't see it happening, especially with technology moving so fast.
Michael, this one's for you. I know you're a big trader. Where do you see the market going into the rest of 2023, 2024 and beyond?
At least it will go to the right. So that's something we know for sure. I think we are on the edge of having the decider of the market. So I think that ultimately, if you look at the sentiment right now, it is very much comparable to the winter of 2019, which is like altcoins, which is usually what you see being discussed on social media. Retail investors are on there. They are shouting that everything is going to zero, Bitcoin goes to 12K and stuff. So they are currently in the depressive phase that we've also experienced at the end of 2019. I think that's very comparable. Right now, we are approximately 10 months before the Bitcoin halving, which going back in history is the best time to start accumulating your positions. Where are we going to with the markets? I think ultimately, if we're going to get some answers from the XRP lawsuit, or more parties like BlackRock are going to join, you'll probably be seeing that we are getting to the end of the correction. That means that I'm not sure how far, how deep we're going to go to, whether we finished already, whether we're going to 20K, who knows. But at least based on history, we are at the end stage of the correction, which means that most likely there's another impulse move going into the halving. So I think at the end of the year, we have a case where Bitcoin is moving between 20 to, let's say, 30, 35K, depends. Not too much of special price action. And I think that after the halving, or when there is some serious macroeconomic uncertainty and gold starts to move up substantially, that's when Bitcoin starts to perform as well. So I think that after the halving, we start a new big bull cycle. Until then, it's just a chop. It's just an illiquid market where prices are going up and down based on squeezes. I think that is not going to be changing. But I think in terms of an investment perspective, this is the best period to be investing into your markets or into your assets. And I think that it's all depending on how gold is going to act. If gold is going to crack that all-time high and we start to move up, I think Bitcoin follows suit. As recently, especially since the beginning of April, we've seen that Bitcoin is uncorrelated against the equity markets. It's the first time we see. So what I want to see in the coming months is that we clearly start to move alongside the commodities. And if we do, and if gold starts to pace up, that's when Bitcoin starts to show strength overall.
Danny.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Michael a question. Actually, I thought that was a really interesting summary. Do you think, Michael, because you've been in the space a long time, you've got a huge amount of experience. Maybe a great question for Wendy as well, because I've only really been in this industry since 2020, so I've kind of seen a bull and then a bear, and I'm curious. Do you see this as the first cycle, or at least the most exaggerated cycle, where difficulties in mainstream finance are driving traffic towards Bitcoin for the first time? Or do you think that's a process that happened before and maybe it's just happening more this time? But, when I talk to people that I know that know nothing about crypto, that are in senior positions, have, disposable income, many of them, whilst they don't know the details of the industry, have an eye on Bitcoin, and they're thinking about a way that they can they can hedge themselves basically against the mainstream financial system by using Bitcoin, despite the fact they don't really understand the technology. But it's becoming it seems that it's a broadly accepted view that Bitcoin is a safe place.
I mean, if I'm currently in Spain and there's a lot of elder people here, they have absolutely no clue about crypto at all. I think it's a generational thing. It's also people that have been high into boards of big in international companies and such. I think in terms of market movements, what you mentioned is, and what I think I tried to say too, is that you clearly want to see that Bitcoin starts to act as such an hedge. I think what I'm currently focused on is that we're seeing a phase where Bitcoin starts to move alongside a commodity. So in terms of uncertainty, that you're actually seeing Bitcoin as a safe haven. What we see with the fact that BlackRock is applying for an ETF is that they agree that Bitcoin isn't going to go away. They just want to get a portion of the cake. So they want to get into the markets. They probably have been getting their positions already. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been pushing this news out right now. Probably that's also going to fuel the markets even more. And I think in terms of where we are with crypto, I can see a scenario where we are just at 1996, 1997, 1998 phase of internet, which means that if we get an ETF or if we get the ability for institutional investors to get into the markets, the markets only need a few billion to move relatively fast. So it doesn't need 1 trillion to move the markets. If an institutional investor says, okay, we need to get into the exposure that we want to hedge, they probably get a position of 1 to 2% at maximum of their portfolio if they want to. They get it through the ETF. The ETF needs to buy it on the spot markets, and boom, there you go. So I think in terms of having a new cycle and to move the markets, you need institutional investors to come into play. The previous cycles were mostly retail focused, and now it's the bigger cycle where those big parties have to get into. Otherwise, you're not going to have a similar cycle again.
So
Wendy O. Thoughts?
So for me, I get the retail, the retail excitement. And like in the past, I was going through some of my old videos from like 2018. It was so funny because we used to be, and I'm sure Michael remembers this, but we were like so excited. We're like, back just coming into crypto and this company, it's going to do so well. It's going to be good. And I was so naive then. Like, I'll admit, I was so naive. I thought it was super exciting. But really, like, I get it for adoption wise to an extent. But the people that are excited about it don't understand how the markets work. Well, I don't want to say the markets. That's not a good way of explaining it. They don't understand the history of money, and they don't understand traditional finance and all of the different practices. They don't understand how banks work, whatever. I get so many people, especially on TikTok, oh, banks are our friends, they're our friends, they're our friends. Banks are not your friends. Banks 100% are not your friends any way, shape, or form. They're not. Banks, they're not. So I get the people being excited about all this stuff, but at the same time, I just feel it's going to be an additional barrier for people, because I remember when I walked into a was it TD Ameritrade or one of those companies? I had walked into there. And I was like, hey, I want to learn or I want to invest. Like, how much money do you need? They told me I needed $25,000 to invest in traditional stocks. And I was like, what in the actual F? Like, it just made me feel so terrible and so awful. And I feel like you're going to get a lot of people that Bitcoin was essentially created for feel the same way. Is they're going to feel that there's some sort of barrier between them and having access to Bitcoin, because the way that these traditional finance people, they make you feel like absolute trash when you go in. So that's just my personal opinion of it. I don't really want to see TradFi come in, but I understand that it's a necessary evil. And I would love everybody to still kind of unite and fight for the underdog and fight for retail investors, because I feel like retail investors are just as competent as TradFi investors or accredited investors.
Yeah, I feel the same. Anthony.
I happen to agree with Wendy. When we look at the situation, I mean, the entire mantra behind decentralization was escaping the institutional stronghold that exists, right? They're making billions and billions of dollars off retail investors because they're quote unquote accredited, which I find remarkable. And, when we start looking at institutional funding coming in, of course, it does drive volume. Of course, it does bring the masses, but we need to have some sort of structure in place that assures that we don't fall back into the same system that we're trying to escape. Otherwise, for the short term, BlackRock's a great option for the short term. But what's going to happen in the long term? Like we're just going to devastate this market as well.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because if you look at traditional finance, it's like who gets to participate? Who gets to part, especially, and I'm just talking from America here. It's like, who gets to participate in traditional finance? Like, I've lived in low income neighborhoods, quite a majority of my life. And the type of advertisement we see in low income neighborhoods, as opposed to, higher income neighborhoods, are like for lottery tickets, like there's a liquor store on every corner, et cetera. So we push that type of stuff on our people, but we don't give any type of, education on, balancing a budget, like creating a family budget or the history of money, et cetera. Like, I learned a little bit of it in school, but I feel like we can do a lot better. So it just makes me a little bit concerned that it's going to further create a wealth gap. And again, that's the biggest problem in America, is our wealth gap. Also, too, thank you so much for having me, but I do have to go because I got to get to my show. But no, I appreciate you. I went ahead and followed the show. And Michael, I'd love to have you on the show one time. And no, you got to come back on. And thank you guys so much for having me. Sending everyone love and light. Wendy O is out.
Thank you, Wendy O. Michael, I see, perfect that your hand went up. I had a question for you as well. So I'll say this first. The 27 bull market, I feel like, was fueled by the ICO craze, 2018 as well. 2020 was the rise of DeFi. We had massive money printing. People were at home. It felt like the perfect storm for the bull market that we saw. We're still in a recession, or some say we're in a recession, some say that we're going into a recession. And so going into 2024, 2025, one, how do you think the economic climate is going to affect the crypto market? And then two, what do you think is going to be the next big thing, right? We had ICOs and we had the rise of DeFi, which was, in my opinion, the first tangible use case for a lot of these smart contracts. What do you see next?
Yeah, thanks for asking me that, and I'll answer to you in a little bit. I first wanted to touch on the previous topic. Unfortunately, Wendy went away, but probably she'll be hearing it anyway. The thing is that right now with the markets, especially when you talk about the wealth gap, I think BlackRock joining the markets doesn't really change anything. Markets move based on psychology, they move based on hype cycles. And the wealth gap is getting larger because retail usually jumps into markets at the last point, and then they get screwed over because the market's already up a lot. Instead, right now, the retail sentiment is super low. Well, in this period, the big institutional investors are getting involved into the market because they understand where the markets are going to go to. So yeah, the wealth gap is getting larger and larger, but that is not really that. Most of that is just depending on retail investors just being stubborn and not being interested or jumping on the markets at the wrong moment in time. So I think BlackRock joining into the markets is something we actually require. And if we talk about regulation, I think being unregulated at this point hasn't shown that we are doing actually well. In the sense, Luna crash, FTX crash, Celsius breaking down, BlockFi breaking down. That's not really showing that we can do it without it. So ultimately, customers have been losing a lot of their money or their funds because people were taking actions with their money that were not allowed, especially when we talk about FTX, or taking too large sums of risks. So going into the upcoming cycle, I think that being fueled by a simple impact as ETFs or institutional investors is going to lead the markets massively. And I think we are facing a recession, and there are a few scenarios in terms of having the actual recession. I think that we've just witnessed the heaviest rate hike policy that we've experienced ever. So what I'm looking at in terms of market environment is that I really compare the current market cycle to 1929, 1930. Which is a phase where we also had a high inflationary environment, a lot of money printing, markets went through the roof, real estate went through the roof, and all of a sudden the entire debt bubble collapsed. through which in the first glance, gold also dropped substantially. And after that, a period of deflation started to occur, and people were fed up with the governments, uncertain about their futures, so they started to have more gold in there, literally just buy physical gold to have in their portfolio, so gold did do well. In the current phase, what you saw after the banking collapses in March is that even the bank account holders that were mostly tech companies were shouting, this should never be possible, we need to be decentralized. So in terms of having a recession, or in terms of having a crisis, which could happen in 6 months from now, which could also happen in 1 to 2 years from now, is that there's always a bit of lag taking place when there's changes in policies. If that takes place, multiple banks will start to collapse. The entire financial ecosystem that we have is going to have a big hit. And at the first part, you will probably have a liquidity crunch, just like we have seen in March, where risk on assets like Bitcoin are getting sold off massively as the institutional investors need to rebalance their portfolio to cover their risk. And after that, the realization of the impact of the ecosystem being destroyed, that will push people into crypto. So in terms of the impact on the markets, I think that we will be having a significant impact. The question is, when will this take place? The recession will most likely be more heavy than expected, through which it can start taking off in like 2 years from now. Bitcoin crashes at the first part and then starts to accelerate even more, or it can happen in 6 months from now, who knows? Ultimately, what can lead towards the next big hype cycle? I think inevitably we see a new cycle of DeFi and NFT taking into account, because Ether has proof of stake, new decentralized applications are being built on top of it. There's an actual use case for people to start using those applications, as being centralized is not the right way moving forward. So DeFi, next layer on it, and NFTs is something that I'm looking up to. CK rollups are things that I'm really interested in. And I think those will be the cornerstones of the next bull cycle.
I have another question from Michael, but really quick, Tyson Fury is in the audience here. He's getting the app on his phone. Twitter Spaces is unfortunately very clunky. It only lets you come up if you are on your phone with the app. It won't let you do it on mobile browser, and won't let you do it on a web browser. Michael, you've kind of alluded to this. You've forecasted where you think the market's going. You've forecasted what you think is going to happen and how things are going to play out. You personally, and this is obviously not financial advice, but you personally, how are you DCAing? How are you allocating your portfolio? What are your strategies going into the rest of the year?
I think ultimately, if your portfolio become larger, you start to tend to be more risk averse, which means that you include assets that don't have the volatility of 20 to 30% moves on a day. So in terms of going into the next few years, the key is to be diversified, which means my investment portfolio is like approximately 80 to 85% of what I have in my total portfolio. So the other 10 to 15% is allocated towards trading or swing trading. The rest is just investment portfolio. Within that investment portfolio, I allocate a big chunk towards just having gold, silver, and platinum, also a bunch of uranium. When it comes to the other assets, I've got cash to also always be flexible in terms of a market breakdown. And then I've got crypto, which mostly is allocated towards the largest players in the markets, which is Bitcoin, ETH. I've got some other layer ones like Chainlink, Oracle, and layer ones like Chainlink, Polkadot. But those are allocated really small in terms of comparison towards Bitcoin and ETH. Why would you want to have a portfolio that is mostly allocated towards altcoins if you have a relatively large portfolio? And also when you have a small portfolio, it doesn't make sense, because ultimately if you have an altcoin that's being built on Phantom, but Phantom dies down, your altcoin goes with it. And you're just increasing the risk appetite of your portfolio. And I think that having an investment portfolio and going to the next few years, having a diversified version of it is always what you need to do. And you always need to focus on the risk instead of the rewards. So having a portfolio that is balanced and that generates a certain ROI of, let's say, 10% on a year, being very conservative. I'm actually being very progressive. That is a more relaxed and balanced approach for the long term, and enables the ability for you to be living your life instead of watching the charts every day to see what your portfolio is doing. So in terms of adding crypto in your portfolio, I think it's wise to do so. But given the volatility and the risks involved, you need to allocate it towards the largest plays, because we're still in the stage where there's a lot of error taking place. So many projects die down because there are better projects out there. There are still attacks from outside of the crypto markets. That if Bitcoin and ETH are getting a halt or are dying down, there's no point having Chainlink in your portfolio as the largest player. So sticking towards Bitcoin and ETH as the largest player in your portfolio is a must do. And then having other assets like gold, etc., in your portfolio makes a lot of sense too. I'll just cut off as I see that Tyson is joining here.
Thank you, Michael. Tyson, welcome. Do a quick mic check.
Mic check. Yo, the sun don't shine forever.
Tyson, welcome to Whale Coin Talk. We're so happy to have you on. I know the time is limited, so I want to get right into it. For those in our audience who may not be too familiar, give us a quick intro and how you got interested in boxing, right? What motivated you to pursue it as a career?
Well, I'm Tyson Fury, the undefeated lineal world heavyweight champion, undefeated in 13 years. Grew up around boxing, got into boxing because it's what my family do. Was named after Mike Tyson, and I ended up becoming a 2-time world heavyweight king. So there we go. That's a little bit of an intro for you guys, for those who don't know me.
Beautiful. Okay, so you're known for your resilience in and out of the ring, particularly in overcoming mental health challenges. The crypto industry is one that requires quite a bit of mental fortitude. I mean, you can ask anyone on stage here. We have to have staying power. So from your experience, how do you manage that stress? How do you manage that mental well-being and keep that staying power?
I think for me, the most important thing is to take one day at a time and set short-term goals. If I look too far in the future, everything gets messed up. So I just enjoy every day as it comes and set myself new goals and new targets every single day. And I enjoy every day as it comes.
Tyson, many regard your comeback to boxing and reclaiming the heavyweight title as one of the greatest in sports history. Can you talk us a bit through what that journey was like for you?
Yes. So in 2015, after a long career, I became world heavyweight champion. And quite quickly after the fight, I spiraled out of control with depression and anxiety and mental health problems. And I was out the ring for nearly 3 years. I ballooned up in weight to 400 pounds. I attempted suicide. I was in a very, very, very dark place. And I decided I was going to come back and I was going to show the world my journey. It was very well documented. And I thought that I could help a lot of people in the same position as me. I thought that if the heavyweight champion of the world could be mentally unwell, then it would help a lot of other people in my journey. And I did. I was very vocal on it, very outspoken, and I have been ever since. And after the 3-year layoff, I came back and defeated the long-reigning WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder. And yeah, that's old history now. I'm still going, still undefeated, and here I am, still battling away with my mental health on a daily basis. Like I said earlier, it's about short-term goals for me, keeping it at bay. It's not like something that ever you can defeat, but you can learn to manage and maintain it for sure.
Tyson, a follow-up to that, a lot of young people struggle with mental health, and there seems to still be a lot of stigma around mental health. What is your advice to those people on taking that first step and getting help?
I think that the best thing that anyone can do who's suffering with mental health is get medical advice immediately, because I think that's one of the biggest regrets in my life, not going to see professional help 10 years before I did. I think the best thing you can do is talk about it. Communication is the best thing in all forms of life, whether it's a relationship, business, mental health, whatever it is. Your communication has got to be the most important matter, because maybe you can't speak to a doctor, but you can speak to one of your friends or your family or your partner, whoever it's going to be. I think bottling it up is the worstest thing that you can do, because you can only bottle it up for so long before you have a meltdown. And that's exactly what happened to me. So if you're one of the people out there who's struggling with mental health, it's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be embarrassed of. And life will get better. I was down and out. It was dark every day for me. It was horrible. Tempted suicide, suicidal thoughts regularly, hearing voices in my mind. I got to a place where I just didn't want to live anymore. I was waking up and asking, like, why have I woke up today? Why didn't I just die in my sleep? So it does get very, very dark, and it's a very, very lonely, selfish place. But I can promise that there is going to be a rainbow at the other side of the darkness. We have to walk through the storm and stand strong and stay on the straight and narrow path, because it's a very, very long, hard walk, but it will get better. And that's the best advice I can give anybody.
Tyson, you did indeed find that light at the end of the tunnel. Your first fight with Deontay Wilder was arguably one of the greatest boxing matches of all time. Was this the most challenging fight of your career? And if not, which one was?
No, I don't think that one was the most challenging. I think Wilder 3, me and Deontay had a trilogy, which means we had 3 title fights together. I think the third one was probably the hardest fight of my career. Wilder 3, we both went to war. We both came in with damaging intentions, and he put me down twice. I put him down 3 times, and I ended up getting a knockout in round 11. But I do believe it took a lot out of both fighters, for sure. Hell of a fight.
Indeed, hell of a fight. So typically, Tyson, what is the recovery process for you like after a fight like that, or a tough fight that really leaves you depleted?
There's a lot of R&R involved. Eating plenty of food, enjoying your family or your friends or people you care about, and just taking it nice and slowly, because you're going to be sore, you're going to be in pain, you're going to be hurting quite a lot. But after a few days or a week, you start to get a lot better. And just time is a healer. No matter what it is that it's healing, the more time you get under your belt, the better it's going to be for anybody.
So if you could go back in time and fight in one era of boxing, what would that era be, and which boxers would you be most excited to enter the ring with?
Well, I've always been obsessed with time and time travel and being able to control time. But these days, I'm happy living in the time that I'm in. Actually, I wouldn't go back in time. I'd stay in my own era, because I live today. I lived in the days of Tyson Fury, 2023. That's where we're at right now, and I'd fight whoever's active, whoever's brave enough to step in the ring with me in our days, in our era. That's who I want to fight. Whether it's going to be Francis Ngannou in a crossover fight, whether it's going to be John Jones in a crossover fight for who's the baddest man on the planet, whether it's going to be Alexander Usyk for the Undisputed World Heavyweight Championships, whether it's going to be anybody, I would stay right where we are today, because I'm happy to be alive, and I'm happy to be breathing fresh air, and I'm happy to be in a good mental position where I am. So I do not want to go back in time. I don't want to move forward in time. I'm very, very happy in my current position in time of where we are, because we're living today. We have to be thankful for today, because tomorrow is not promised to nobody, and yesterday is history. That's a fact.
Big facts. Tyson, before I pass it to Danny for this next question, this is a perfect moment for me to ask. My friend Anthony is a massive fan of yours. He even has a poster on his wall of you hitting Wilder with a clean hook. He told me he has one question for you. Are you going to fight Usyk for the undisputed title?
I would love to fight Usyk for the undisputed title, but at the minute, Usyk's running like a cheetah. He is running so fast. He can't get away from me quick enough. There was an opportunity for Usyk to fight back in April over at our national stadium here in the UK, which holds 100,000, and he turned that fight down. So I'm not sure what's going on at the moment with Alexander Usyk, but quite frankly, it's none of my business what he does. I can only concentrate on myself. And at the moment, I am looking to fight in September or October this year, and it's going to be an absolutely monstrous fight.
Danny, or actually, let's go to Michael first.
Yeah, thanks. Great to meet you, Tyson. So I was wondering, like, I mean, boxing is of course a big influence of your life, but outside of boxing, like, what do you do in your spare time when you're relaxing, or what are you focusing on learning additionally next to boxing?
For me, I am a family man. I'm married. I've got 6 kids and one on the way, another one due in September. So that'll be number 7. So there's never any relaxation time for a dad like that with so many children. And they're all young as well. So I have my hands full at home. I do a lot of reading. I've got faith. I read a lot of the Bible. Um, I study boxing a lot. I study the past in boxing and the future. I study all the prospects coming through. And that's my passion. Today, boxing is not so much of a business to me or a sport. It's more of a hobby. It's become more of a hobby, something I love to do.
Danny.
Yeah, thank you, Noah. Hey, Tyson, Danny here. Hope you're well. Um, the question I wanted to ask you actually, because Noah asked about how you recover from a fight, which I think your response was around R&R and kind of focused on the physical side of it. I can imagine there's probably like a sense of expectation and a huge build up, and I would imagine that the dopamine level when you get to that world heavyweight title fight and then you win it must be huge. How do you manage coming down from that like extreme high, which is really difficult to recreate, certainly regularly?
Yeah, it's been a hard struggle over the years. I live in Morecambe Bay in Lancashire. It's a small seaside town in the north of England. So there's not much going on here. And say on Saturday night, I can be in MGM Las Vegas, Nevada in a massive world title fight. On a Monday morning, I'm back in Morecambe Bay going to the tip run to drop off some rubbish or garbage. So it's a real big scale of difference. But what I've learned over the years is the sooner I get back to reality, being a husband, a father, and a son, the better. Because, like you say, it's a lot of mental strain, a lot of pressure, a lot of highs and lows. And what I believe is the bigger the high, the lower the low. So as soon as I can get back to normal, the school runs, just being a normal person, as soon as I can get back to that, the better. That's how I do it, because after being in a world title fight with say 80,000-90,000 people there or over in Vegas or wherever it might be, it's a very, very big scale difference. And to mentally adjust to that is difficult. But over the years, I've sort of mastered how to do it now. Before, years ago, say 5 or 6 years ago, I'd have these big world title fights and I'd be really depressed for like a week, 2 weeks afterwards. But these days, I only really have like maybe 2 days of depression after a big fight. And I get back to what I do best, and that's being a husband, a father, and a son.
Alice, the mic is yours.
Hi, Tyson. Great to meet you. I just have a question around being a dad. Now, obviously, you're a huge family man. You're very well known for that. You've got 6. Like I say, congratulations on number 7 as well. That's amazing news. How have you found that being a dad has changed you as a person, particularly in your career? Do you think it's had an impact on that?
I most definitely do. In the beginning, when I first started out in my professional career, obviously I was a young lad and I had dreams. I had big dreams of becoming world heavyweight champion. So it was about winning and winning titles and earning money and changing my life and winning everything that I wanted, achieving everything that I wanted. Then I got married quite young at 20 years old, and I had my first child when I was 21. And dramatically, things changed instantly because it wasn't about me anymore. It wasn't about my wants and needs for championships and whatever. It was about my family. It was about my child. It was about what's best for her. Where do we want to live? What's close to better schools? This sort of thing. So I think being a parent changes your outlook on life completely. And you as an individual, you're playing second fiddle to the kids all the time. Because even now, like when we want to go somewhere, I don't think about, oh, where do I want to go? I think about what's best for the kids. If we're going out for a meal, then we've got to go somewhere that's child friendly or that sort of thing. And I think as a parent, anyone will agree with me that you become a second option in life because the kids always come first, and that's a fact.
Yeah, no, great answer. Completely agree. Completely. I've got two of my own, and you're right. Everything revolves around them, doesn't it? And that's the right way, of course. But certainly a learning curve, I think, when you first become a parent, particularly, if you're in your early 20s and you're still young, learning yourself, I suppose. So yeah, no, completely agree.
Brother Tommy and his partner Molly, they had this expectation of what having a baby would be like. They thought it would be all this fun and, oh my God, this sort of stuff. But when they've got the baby, reality has set in. It's much more difficult than they thought it would ever be. So it's definitely difficult. But if you think one or two is difficult, imagine having 6 or 7 or more. It's really difficult, to be sure.
Yeah, no, I don't know how you do it. But I'll pass back to Noah now. Thanks, Tyson.
Thank you. It's difficult, but I wouldn't change it for the world. That's a fact.
Tyson, I'm sure that your kids look up to you quite a bit. Have any of them expressed interest in also pursuing boxing? And if so, how do you feel about that?
Yes, I've got my oldest son who's 11 and my middle son who's 6. They both are in the boxing gym right now. They're in training. They're starting only young, like kids having fun in the gym and all that. So, if they want to pursue it as a career later on in life, then I'm fully supportive, because who am I to tell somebody not to do something, not to follow their dreams? I don't believe in crushing kids' dreams, because I was once a kid with a massive dream. I had an unreachable dream, and everybody told me that it was a stupid idea and you're probably not going to make it and you're going to waste your life and you're going to have nothing at the end of it and yada yada yada. Pursue something different. And I didn't believe any of them, and I followed my dreams. I followed my heart, and here I am today, living proof that dreams do come true with hard work, dedication, being in the right place at the right time, the right mindset, and a lot of other stuff as well. Dreams do come true for sure.
Let's say you didn't pursue boxing. What would you have gone into?
What would I have gone into? Very good question, and I don't know. I come from like a car dealing background. My father, he was a car dealer, and I like trading and stuff like that. So I've always been around that sort of stuff. So I've definitely been buying or selling something. That's a fact.
Tyson, many in our industry, because it's on 24/7, find it very difficult to have a work-life balance. And I can imagine that boxing is even more demanding. How do you balance your family life and your interests, your hobbies with the demands of a boxing career?
Yes, it's quite hard, to be fair, because obviously I've got the family, and going away like in training camps is difficult. Going away for like say 7, 8, 10 weeks away from the family in a remote location, training for a fight. The kids are upset. Paris is upset. Everybody doesn't want me to leave, but I think they understand that Daddy has to go. I've got a job to do. I've got bills to pay. That sort of stuff. So how do I balance it? You've got to do what you got to do. In life, there's going to be sacrifices. If you want to be successful at anything, then it's never going to be easy. No one's just going to walk here and hand you like a bag full of money or something, pay all your bills or whatever. It's there's going to be a lot of sacrifice, a lot of dedication involved, and if you're not willing to do that, then guaranteed you're never going to be successful, because there's more sacrifices needed to be a success in your preferred field than doing anything. It's very, very difficult, and having a family as well, that's hard. But I've always had a family. Like I've been married a long time now. I'm 34. I got married at just turned 20. So I've never not been married without kids type thing. I had kids straight away. So I sort of they've come up with me, if that makes sense. I've always had the little ones ever since I've been a professional. So I don't know any different. So it's either you got to do it. There is no what ifs. You just have to. If you've got kids, you've got a family, you have to do what you have to do. You've heard that saying, man's got to do what a man's got to do. Well, get up and do it.
Beautifully put. Anthony, the mic's yours.
Hey, Tyson, pleasure to meet you, brother. Congratulations, first of all, on your 7th child. I just had my 3rd with the wife. We're trying to catch up to you, so we'll be at 7 soon, too. But my question, I wanted to ask, are there any memorable moments from your career, your boxing career, that the fans might not know about that you'd like to share?
I have a lot of memorable moments, a lot of highlights and stuff, but I think that my biggest achievement, I think, for boxing was when I first won and became the unified world heavyweight champion. I won 5 or 6 belts in one fight against one of the longest reigning champions in history, Vladimir Klitschko. I was a massive underdog, like a 10-1 underdog, going to Germany to dethrone this long reigning champion who nobody could defeat in 11 years. And it was such a special moment. I grew up watching this guy. When I was a kid, he was a world champion. So I grew up watching him and to be in the ring and sharing the ring with a guy. So it was just an amazing experience. And then after the fight, I serenaded my wife, Paris, with the Aerosmith song. Don't want to close my eyes. I don't want to fall asleep because I miss you, babe. And I think that was like an iconic moment in my career, actually. And then it's become like a little thing where I sing after all the fights, which is kind of crazy. But, I'm one of these people who can't sing but will sing. And one of those annoying people at the party. That's me.
Alice, go for it. Did Alice rug?
Yeah, she's run with the bag.
Okay. So Tyson, quick question. What are your remaining goals in boxing? And then what do you want to achieve once and I want to ask you this question later, but what do you want to achieve once you retire from boxing?
My remaining goals in boxing are zero. I don't have any goals. I've done everything there is to do. I've won every single belt there is to do. I'm 34 fights unbeaten, a 13-year career. There's physically nothing more I can do in boxing other than fight Alexander Usyk for the undisputed, which I've never really been interested in, which is well documented. Fighting for undisputed, it means nothing to me. I've got all the belts anyway. But if that fight does arise, then that would be my final goal in boxing. But I'm quite interested in these fights with like the other combat sportsmen, like I said, John Jones or Francis Ngannou, to test myself against other combat fighters like those. But that's about it in boxing. I'm just taking me days, one day a day, and enjoying whatever time I have left. I'm 35 next month, so I don't have a long time left as a professional boxer. And what are my goals after boxing? I just want to be a good husband and a good father. I've been on the road a long time. I've been traveling away and I've been away from my family for long stints of time. And I just want to put a lot of time into the kids and spend quality time. Because I believe that when you're a child, they're the most important foundations, like building a house. If you get the foundations wrong, then it's going to cause problems later on in life. And I just want to spend put a lot of time into my kids, because I'm a big believer in you only get out what you put in. And, I just want to be around. I want to be the person who's doing the school runs all the time and being there for the kids and giving them a good upbringing and a good grounding. And, I want them to get to adults and say, you know what, we had a great father. He did all he could for us and we had a great childhood. And that would be a goal for me, for sure. And I'd love to see my kids go on and do well and stand on their own 2 feet and have a family of their own and kids and grandkids and whatever else. So that's my goals.
Beautiful. Danny, the mic's yours.
Yeah, you've been a great sport today, Tyson. I'm just curious. You were so close to fighting Usyk back in April, and obviously that hasn't happened. And we've mentioned it today, and it still boils up in the press every couple of weeks. So everybody's still thinking about it. If after everything that's gone on, I'm curious. After everything that's gone on, if you got say you got in the ring with Usyk in November, December. After everything that's gone on, would it be a little bit more personal than it would have been back in April?
Not really, because it's business. It's not personal. Or the only reason this fight's not happened is because Usyk wants more bags. He wants more money. Okay, so I don't blame him for that, because at the end of the day, it's a short career and it's a business. So it's not really a personal thing. Oh, I hate Usyk, or oh my God, Usyk didn't fight me. Whatever reasons are great. The fight didn't happen. This is strictly business. Usyk's waiting for the big money, the 100 million he's going to get from the Saudis for the fight in November or whenever it's going to happen. So I can't hold it against him. I know he's a family man. He's got families to feed. So I wish him luck. It's not personal. It's a sport for one and a business for two. But when we do finally meet, I'm going to annihilate him. That's a fact.
Let's go. So With that said, Tyson, when is the right moment to retire? I feel like there's never a perfect moment, and you love this sport so much that it's hard to part ways with it. But would love to hear what you're thinking along the lines of moving on and, pursuing a full-time life as a father.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult, extremely difficult. Pretty difficult is an understatement. Very, very, very hard to walk away. I always said that I didn't want to be one of these people who stayed around too long and end up getting injured or end up punch drunk or something. And I didn't understand that when I was younger, a lot younger, I didn't understand how these guys would have such glitzy careers and then end up losing lots of times at the end and ended up not being able to string a sentence together and stuff like that. And now I understand why, because it's so hard to walk away. You're 1 minute you're the center of attention. There's 100,000 people coming chanting your name, and then you retire, and then you're nothing. You're a has been a champion, has been a good fighter, has been a great businessman or whatever. You're just another bare bum in the shower type of thing. So I understand why they can't walk away, and I find myself in that same position right now. I retired last year, I believe. No, 2022. Had my final farewell fight at Wembley with 94,000 people there, which is the record for our national stadium of everything, concerts, everything. And I thought that would be enough. I had my final farewell fight at home, the send off that anyone could ever wish for, and I had 6 months of retirement, and I didn't know what to do with myself. I thought the bins and the school runs and the training and stuff would be enough, but it turns out that it wasn't. So my exit strategy keeps changing monthly, and I do not know if I can walk away until I'm finally done for, if that makes sense. I find it really hard, just like every other champion before me, to walk away, because 1 minute you're the world heavyweight champion and the next minute you're just a normal person again. It's very difficult switch, and mindset is very, very difficult, because not being a normal person your whole life, being an absolute animal, being something totally different to everybody else, it's difficult, well, very, very hard to go back to being just a normal person, the dad, the school dad. It's hard work, and I don't know if I can do it. Just like everybody else before me, I don't know if I can do it. That's
when you said you're
uncomfortable in my career.
Listen, when you said your exit strategy keeps changing, I just thought of the average crypto trader. I was watching an interview with Mike Tyson a while back, and there's a part where he gets emotional and talks about how he really misses that fighter he once was, but ultimately you have to let go. I would imagine that you'd still want some sort of tie to boxing. Would you ever become a trainer or possibly promote fights? Would love to hear if that's something of interest.
It's of right now, being honest and truthful, it's of no interest, because to me, when you're the gladiator, you're the one who's doing it. You're the one who people have come to see, to pay to watch. It's hard to sit ringside and watch somebody else do it. Very hard. To be a great fighter is one, it's a gift from God. And two, it's a total different mindset. It's a total different ability, total different set of skills to doing anything else. It's a brutality that you're forcing on somebody else in the ring, who's also trying to force the same brutality back onto you. So I'm not sure being a trainer or being a promoter is just going to keep the appetite going. But one thing I do know is that I have a family and I have kids, and, with all the success and all the money I've made and everything that I've done in my life, I want to be able to enjoy that. I want to be able to walk down the street and talk like I can today and enjoy the spoils of war. I don't want to be being pushed around in a wheelchair and being fed from a spoon, which is very possible in any combat sport. So when is enough enough? I don't know. But when you're getting offers of 75, 100 million for a fight, what you've been doing all your life, you've been doing time and time again from a little kid, you think it's just another fight, one more. But the old question is, when is enough enough? And I can answer that question. It's not about the money. It's not about anything. It's about the chase. It's that lion locked up in a cage in a zoo somewhere that's dreaming of being back out on the African plains, chasing a gazelle down in the hunt. It's a feeling of ecstasy. It's a feeling of reaching for the stratosphere. It's a hell of a feeling, and it's something that I can't really explain unless you've been there and done it. It's a feeling that takes your emotions on a roller coaster. You've got a feeling of nerves, excitement, a feeling of victories in the air, a feeling of all these emotions rolled into one. And everything that I've ever been and done, sampled in my life, alcohol, drugs, gambling, nothing ever comes close to the feeling you get of being super fit, walking to the ring for one-on-one combat with another trained athlete. It's an emotion that can't be explained. You feel so many different emotions rolled into one. And I don't think nothing will ever come close to that. Because if it did, then all these old fighters from the past would have been able to walk away on top. And they wasn't able to do that. Even Floyd Mayweather, as old as he is, he must be nearly 50 years old. He's still boxing. He's still doing exhibitions. He's still traveling, wanting to fight. So, and he's made $1 billion or something. So it's pretty hard. It's never going to be about the money for Floyd, but it's difficult to let it go. Once you've been a fighter on such an elite level as we have, it's hard to walk away. Very hard. And no matter what you go and buy, no many Rolls Royces or Lambos you go and buy, it's just a car. It doesn't matter. But when you're in the ring and your reputation, your life's on the line, then there's something more to fight for. It's a very, 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 very unforgiving sport as well. So you have to take that into mind also. But for me, it's my wife pleads with me every day. Every time I think about fighting, she's like, please just let it go. We have everything. We have enough. Why tempt fate? Why keep going? And it's like, well, I am that lion and I am chasing that gazelle down. And I love the chase, but I love the taste of blood even more. And that blood for me in my sport is the victory of winning. And that's where we're up to. That's the chapter we're at the moment, is when can I let go, if ever?
Man, Tyson, I got chills listening to that. We call it chasing the dragon. Do you go ahead?
Like a fight, come on!
Tyson, do you ever see yourself finding some sort of a hybrid or interfacing in a hybrid way, the way that Floyd is doing with these exhibitions?
Yeah, you never know. Look, I've been in talks with Francis Ngannou for a hybrid fight. There's talks of me and John Jones doing a hybrid fight as we talk right now. I received an offer from the UFC yesterday. So you never know what's going to happen. The future's bright for sure, and there's a lot of options out there. And it seems at the moment I'm struggling to get an actual boxing opponent. I think Mauricio Suleiman, the president of the WBC, did an interview podcast recently, and he said Tyson's a victim of his own success. He's that good. People don't want to fight him. They'd rather fight somebody else. And that's what I'm experiencing right now. I think I've called out everybody in the top 15 in the heavyweight division in the last 6 months, and I'm still without an opponent as we speak today.
Tyson, I know that you're busy, man, and I want to be cognizant of your time. How many more minutes do we have with you? I think you have to go pretty soon here, huh?
Yeah, go on, continue.
Yeah, okay, right on. What would you
like? On a roll.
Tyson, what would you like your legacy to be like, both as a boxer and a public figure? How do you want to be remembered in the world of sport and beyond? I know I kind of alluded to this during the course of the broadcast, but I wanted to bring it all back together.
Yeah, good question. And I get asked it a lot. And I always hear this talk of legacy, smegacy. People talk about legacies like what they want to be remembered after they're finished. And I've always said I've been very, very vocal my whole career about this. I honestly just do not give a damn. Like Clark Gable said, quite frankly, I just don't give a damn. Legacy means to me that you're finished and you're a has-been. So legacy is very unimportant. I'm all about now being active and enjoying every single moment that I have left, because legacy don't mean fuck all to me. That's a fact. Legacy is somebody's opinion of you. And somebody's opinion means absolutely nothing to me because opinions are like arseholes. Everybody's got one, and that's a fact. You know, legacies. What do I want to be remembered as? I want to be remembered as a man who feared God, a man who had faith in God, unshakable faith. That's good enough for me. A man who was a good family man. The rest of it's very unimportant, because when you're dead and you're buried or you're burnt or whatever it is, it doesn't matter what you was doing on earth, because we've gone to heaven, hopefully. And, you know, it's really unimportant, because earthly things are not important. Because you could go and buy a brand new Rolls Royce for $500,000 today, and in fucking 10 years, it's all rusty and horrible. It means nothing. You can't take it with you. Whatever we earn and accumulate, or whatever we do on this planet, it's borrowed. It's not really ours. I think the one thing we do have, though, I mentioned this on the Mike Tyson podcast, is moments in time. And the moment in time is right now. I was always obsessed with when I come back here when I'm world heavyweight champion, I'll enjoy it more. But what I didn't realize was I was never going to enjoy it more than when I was in that active current time then. Because when you leave that event, it's over. Can't go back in time. So I'm very, 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 very thankful to be alive and well and healthy today. And if people want to say, you know what, Tyson Fury was a bum, he was a shithouse, he was no good, he couldn't fight, lost all of his fights, whatever, then I don't really care what people say, because at the end of the day, I've done very well in my life, and I'm very happy with who I am. I'm very happy with where I am, and I'm very happy with my surroundings and my wife and kids. And the one thing I live by is this: there's only one person you have to make happy in my life, and that's my wife. And if I can make her happy, then we're on to a winner. Because everything else, you're never going to please everybody. Even if you please 10 people, you might upset 10 more. So you can't please everybody. Everybody's got different views. Everybody's got different opinions and different morals. But the only person I need to keep happy is my wife, because she can make my life a living hell if she wants to. And, you know, thank God we're in a good place and our relationship's very healthy. And I've been married for 13 years, and I hope we're married for another 113 years. And I wouldn't change it for the world. So the only person I'm interested in making happy is my wife. And I hope she has that same outlook on life as well. The only person she needs to make happy is me. And, you know, I'm very, very blessed. Like I said, I've more than achievements, more than a boxing belt, more than all the money that you could fit in the earth. I have a family who love me and who I adore. I have little kids who adore me and look up to me, and I see them every morning. And when my little daughter, who's 18-month-old, comes in my room and tells me, Daddy, she loves me, then that's worth more to me than any boxing fight, any amount of money, any amount of success that you could even think about. Never mind giving in real life. If you could even dream about it, then the love of your kids, or the love from me to my kids, is worth more than any of that. That's a fact. That's gospel on the heart talking. Because when something happens in the family, like my mother had a problem recently, she had a stroke and she nearly died. At that moment, it's things that, you know, you can't buy, or no matter who you are, what influence you've got, no matter how many doctors you know, it's out of your hands, and we turn to God for help. I read a memo recently by the founder of Apple, and he was on his deathbed, I'd say 57, 58, and he was saying that the first time in his life he couldn't pay someone to do it for him, and he had to do it, and he said, like, spend time with your loved ones and enjoy what you do. And I think he took that context from the book of Ecclesiastes, where Solomon says the only thing in life worth doing is eating and drinking and enjoying your work. And if you can do that, it's a gift from God. So I enjoy eating because I'm fat, obviously. I enjoy drinking because who doesn't like to have a few beers? And I enjoy my work, and that's a gift from God. So I will do it as long as I can, and hopefully I stay healthy, and it's all worth it in the end. So I'm very, very happy, and I just want to say thank you to everybody who came on to listen to this, and I hope you can take some interesting insights from what I've been saying, and maybe apply it in your life if you can, or if you need to, or if you want to even.
Yo, the sun don't shine forever, but as long as it's here, then we might as well shine together. Tyson Fury, you came out with a bang, or rather came in with a bang. I'm so glad you highlighted the importance of faith and its role in your life and career. It sounds like you have the greatest gift of all, which is a beautiful family that loves you and you love them. Alice, I see your hand go up. Before I pass it to Alice, I want to thank Tyson Fury so much for coming on today, dropping wisdom, knowledge, and love on us. Foxify, thank you so much, Danny and Alice, for making this happen. This wouldn't have been an event if it wasn't for you two. I'm going to pass it to Alice for some closing thoughts.
Thank you, guys.
No, I just wanted to come thank everybody. Again, thank you, Tyson. We've loved having you as Foxify's brand partner. It's been great. You know, we've been working together and it's been amazing. I do have one final request that's more from sort of our community. If it's okay, if you could just do your you know what you do best, and give us a real banger with "Let's Go Foxify." Could you just do that for the community? It'll make them really happy.
Let's go, Foxify!
Love that. No one does that better than Tyson Fury, right? No, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for helping us get this together. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Wendy. I know she's not listening now, but thank you, everyone, for coming. It's been amazing. And yeah, Tyson, thanks so much. And I hope you have an amazing weekend.
All the best, guys. Good luck. God bless. And I'll see you all on the other side. Peace out.
Peace out, Tyson. God bless you. Whale Coin Talk community. This is another episode of the Aquarium. Today we had heavyweight champion Tyson Fury on. This was a special broadcast brought to you by Foxify and Whale Coin Talk. Remember, everything you hear on these broadcasts is meant for educational purposes only. Nothing is